Hello, everyone. In recent days, I got at least 3 phone calls and 4 emails about relationships. No wonder this is a very tense period in human life. We have a lot of difficulties, a lot of issues are going around. The powers that be probably decided to turn us into biohumus, which means that they simply no longer need us. They have the technology to replace us as human beings with robots. We are superfluous, and we are just there to poison the earth. And it's easier to get rid of us. That's what it looks like, at least. And so relationship issues always become more important or interesting whenever things are not very nice. Things need people to get together, to be together, to hold on to each other. And although I usually teach synastry for at least a year, a couple of months. So this is something that you can't actually learn at a workshop or something shorter, because you have to delve into it. You have to see at least, in order to see the dynamic, you have to see at least 10, 12 synastries before you understand fully and completely how they work. And even then, you have to understand the fact that there are 2 people with free will, and or you can discern by comparing the 2 charts how they are comparable, what are the main issues, where are the most important emphasis. But actually what they are going to do about it, you don't know. I have a couple, they have been together for 15 years now. They love each other very much. They are honoring each other deeply. In many, many ways, they are totally different. One is a vegetarian, the other one loves meat. One loves classical music, the other one loves heavy metal and things like that. And still, the relationship is able to work because they honor each other and they give space. Both of them give space to one another. And that's, I think, is the most important issue. And we will get to it at the very end of this video. But even though it is always a very difficult issue to compare 2 people, and you might be completely right, and your assumptions may turn totally wrong, but let's see what we can actually do with the help of karmic astrology. And I gave to this video, I gave the title Relationship Types Reloaded, because I already spoke a lot about relationships. You can see a couple of videos up there. Probably in the last year, I produced at least 2 or 3 or 4 even, but this is summing up what I normally teach. And there are 3 basic types. Soul sibling is, it's quite common, but it's not the most common type. Let's take a look at what they are like. This occurs when the 2 people are very close to each other. They were born within 2 to 6 months. So they are classmates, roommates, the same bunch. If you look at them, they come from the same soul group. That's why we say soul siblings. And they started a number of different types of relationship. They were comrades, they were friends, they were siblings, cousins, and so on. And sometimes they were also a husband and wife, or other types of relationships. Any really. It's not a typical love relationship. It's more like a comrade. 2 comrades are together. And as I said, they are from the same soul group, so they are really soul siblings. Typical interests are semi-sextile, sextile, and conjunctions. If they are born within 2 to 6 months, Of course, the personal planets might be in semi-sextile or sextile. Let's say if it's just 2 months, it's usually a sextile between the two suns. Sometimes they do have the same birthday. So one was born on the 2nd, and the other one was also born on the 2nd. So actually, you have a very close and nice interaspect between the two suns. And the conjunction occurs with the outer planets. So outer planets don't move anywhere within 2 to 6 months. It's usually even within 1 degree. Sometimes what you see that in one occasion, one has a retrograde Pluto, let's say, but 6 months later, Pluto went back to the exact same degree where it was 6 months ago. And so the two people have a Pluto conjunction. Why is this important? Of course, it becomes personalized only when Pluto rules something important in the chart. Like it's the chart ruler or the sun ruler or the moon ruler. But it is important in forecasting because these people usually end up having the same issue, the same life-altering or problematic issues. They have the returns or the squares and oppositions with the outer planets at exactly the same time. So they actually can help each other because they can go through the same together. Also, sometimes when one has a personal planet to the outer planet square, the other person's sun or moon or personal planet dissolves this square by a trine or by a sextile. So that's another typical astrological feature of soul siblings. How does the relationship operate? It's very calm, very supportive, but lukewarm. But it can go on for 10, 15, even 20 years. They are very harmonious. They support each other. They are there for each other. Sometimes they even call each other mom and dad, just like the children, which I strongly disapprove because we are grown-ups and we should treat each other as grown-ups and not as daddies and mothers. But anyhow, everything is for the children. Everything is running around the children. This type of relationship produces sometimes many children, not just 1 or 2, but like 3, 4. This is the best type of relationship for having a family and children. But what I usually note that it's okay for the first 10, 15, 20 years, but when the last child is leaving the family, all of a sudden, the relationship becomes empty somehow. It empties out. And unless there are grandchildren or some shared hobby, some shared activity, they can move apart. And then this is when another person, a third person, comes into the picture and it becomes a love triangle all of a sudden, then this relationship won't last, of course. But if there are shared, joined activities, hobbies, or grandchildren, it can go on, of course, for another 10, 15, even another 20 years. So you can actually end up living with your soul sibling for the rest of your life. The second type is soulmate, the soulmate relationship. Soulmate is the most typical. 90%, 80 to 85% of relationships fall into this category. The typical aspects are the trine, the square, and the conjunction. And you usually find as many trines as squares. But what's happening, because the initial physical attraction is extremely strong. It's like you fall in love instantly. You have this very, very strong physical desire, sexual desire. And you want to be with this person. And so what you do is you simply push any misunderstanding under the carpet. You don't want to jeopardize your beautiful relationship. So actually the people, the participants are playing a role, really. I want to please you, you need to please me. And this goes on for the first 8 months for sure, because Venus rules love, carnal love, and also the pheromones, the sexual hormones. And Venus's orbital period is 8 months. So the first 8 months are usually spent in a bliss, They never come out of bed, and they try to push any misunderstanding or any discrepancy or problem under the carpet. These start coming out in the second 8 months. And in the third, they become really constant in the third. So what's happening is all of a sudden, they have their misunderstandings out in the open, which they can't really resolve because they weren't honest at the very beginning. And the whole relationship sours. There are a lot of pain involved in the process. Sometimes they are able to come out of it. Sometimes they are not. And it depends on the type of wounds they are giving each other that have been accumulated during those first 2 years, whether or not the relationship can be healed. This relationship is very typical. Most of the relationships fall into this category. And there is this lost paradise syndrome, which I hear very, very many times from my clients. Oh, we had such fun. We loved each other so much in the first couple of months. I don't know what happened to us. Well, you weren't honest with each other. That's what happened. You were lying about things that you didn't like, but you didn't want to jeopardize it. And so you kept it for yourself. And when it became unbearable, then you pushed the whole thing upon your partner, and the partner, of course, couldn't do anything about it. So that's the problem. But invariably, you have this lost paradise syndrome. And unless you are very honest from the beginning, some people are able to do that. It's almost impossible to resolve these issues because there was so much lying. So that's the second type. And then you have the so-called twin flame relationship. Now, ever since Jodie Hall started working on the subject, and she also published a couple of books on it, quite nice ones, really nice ones. And she had a very, very different take on twin flames. Actually, she always wanted to find her twin flame, which she unfortunately couldn't. And I kept telling her that, no, I don't think that twin flames are wonderful. What she said, quite interestingly, she said that there's no karma between the two people. And I laughed because, come on, there's always karma. There's karma in almost everything. So how can you have no karma? What I realized over the years, I found just a couple of true twin flame relationships, and they go back way back to the very beginning, when in the manifested physical world, souls split into two, into a positive and negative side, feminine and masculine, you might say. Plato wrote about this. You might want to check it out. And so this is your other half, okay, who developed into something over the millennia. You also developed into something over the millennia, and all of a sudden you meet. Now, usually the birth dates of the partners are far apart, many years, sometimes even decades. So one is a lot older, at least 10 years older, sometimes 20 years older than the other. The typical interaspects are the quincunx and the quindecile, and sometimes sextiles. You have all kinds of other aspects, of course, but quincunx and quindecile are the most important aspects of the twin flame. And this makes this type of relationship very, very difficult and disruptive, because a quincunx, if you consider a quincunx, what signs it connects. One is a summer sign, and the other one is either an early spring or in the dead of the winter. For instance, let's take, for example, if you have one planet is in Cancer and the other one is in Aquarius, that's a quincunx energy, and one is the height of the summer, where the sun is at its brightest, light is in abundance, and Aquarius is the depth of winter, where everything freezes and nothing moves. So the two planets are in signs that are not opposite, because opposites can meet halfway. Okay, so actually we like oppositions in the karmic synastry, but quincunxes are so different and so unrecognizable for the other, unreconcilable for each other, that it's making it very, very difficult. Also, sometimes quincunxes do work like a trine, but 5 minutes later they work like a square or like an opposition. And this causes disruption. That in one moment I thought we understood each other and finally we reached at a conclusion, and then all of a sudden everything is falling apart. So this is a very disruptive, difficult aspect. And the Queen Decile, the 165 degree, which is obsession and ambition, but usually in a relationship, they work. If they work like ambition, there is hope, but that requires intelligence, of course, from the participants. But usually they work as a compulsion, as like some sort of compulsory energy that I need to do this, I need to own you, I need to be with you, you need to be with me, and so on. So this could be very difficult. It could make the relationship quite difficult and fated. I don't really like to use this word, but that's what happens. And the sextile gives you the saving grace, because it's, when there are sextiles, wherever there are sextiles, that is where the relationship is manageable. Interesting enough, there is no initial attraction. So at the outset, the two people are not what they usually vote for. For instance, if you like dark-haired men, this is a blonde, and so on. So it's not your typical type. It's interesting enough, this lack of attraction changes instantly when they touch. Then either they hold hands or they give a kiss, like a goodbye kiss or something very innocent, and all of a sudden, boom, there is this lightning energy between the two, or it is like ignited. So the desire gets ignited and it becomes very, very strong. And again, you don't understand yourself, because I don't like this type. Why am I attracted to him? So you're kind of angry with it. The typical operation of the relationship is like this. It is very honest from the outset, because I don't want to be with you, because I don't really like you. You are not my type. What am I doing here? These are the questions you are asking yourself. Yes, there is the desire, but you don't understand yourself. And of course, you are angry. So you are outspoken. You don't want to show your best face, so to speak. You are not pushing anything under the carpet. You are outspoken. You are verbalizing your difficulties or your anger, or so. It's not a nice relationship. Let's take a look at the beginning, and usually what the family members or friends are asking you is, why are you with him? Why are you with her? So because they can see that they are constantly, if not fighting, at least arguing. There's a lot of argument there. And the typical course of events are also, I didn't put this here, but it may be important, that the two charts carry the same themes. So they may be from a different aspect point of view. So you have a Sun-Pluto trine, he has a Sun-Pluto opposition. You have a Venus-Uranus square, he has a Venus-Uranus trine or conjunction. But the themes are picking up in both charts. Okay, so that is something, again, typical of twin flames. And this type of relationship is not suitable for family or for children, for raising children, simply because the two people are so consumed by the relationship and they want to resolve it, but at the same time they want to have fun, yes, of course, but at the same time they want to prove that they can resolve the relationship, and this takes a lot of time. This is usually a relationship at the end of life stage, or definitely in the second half. In the first half, when you are seeking a partner with whom you can start a family, forget it, it's not going to work. So after looking at the types, let's take a look at what is really important in karmic synastry. I gave you 4 points here to look at. If you are just a little bit knowledgeable about astrology, you can actually work with this. And one is hemisphere emphasis. Let me show you today's chart, which actually I started, I pushed the, where is it? I may not be able, no, this is not it, sorry, hold on a second. That is why I shouldn't do this early, because then it loses it. This is a feature of Zoom that I don't really like, that I can't put, hold on a second, I can't put things up early because they won't show up on my screen. Hopefully now it will. Okay, so this is at this moment when I just pushed the button of Astrokama. I'm recording this on October the 14th. This is at 11:32 in Budapest. And take a look at this chart. And let's take a look first at the hemisphere emphasis. Anything underneath the horizon remains within you, inside you. Anything above the horizon goes out. Now, quite interestingly, you have 6 ruling planets below the horizon and another 6 above the horizon. So that's a very nice balance, you could say. But if you look at the personal planets, you have all the personal planets above the horizon. So it means that this is really a person who doesn't really like to be in itself. He or she wants to go out into the world at large and seeks answers outside. And then if we look at the Eastern and Western hemisphere, the Eastern hemisphere is where you reign, you are holding the reins, this is where you can operate. And then the Western hemisphere is where you meet your partner. And again, you have six planets, ruling planets. In karmic astrology, each sign has its separate ruler, so it's easy to work with it. And here, the fact that Mercury is up on the midheaven, so it could be both ways, it's almost like a true balance, because you have the moon and Mars on the spouse's side, and you have Venus and the sun on your own side. So that's a very, very nice and balanced chart. And the second issue is elements and modalities, so your energetic map. In this chart, you have 6 cardinals, 2.5 fixed and 4 mutables. And if you look at it closely, you have a cardinal sun with Mercury and Venus as well. So you have 3 personal planets in cardinals. So this person would be a go-getter, an initiator. You only have 2.5 fixed signs. So it's not really someone who is finishing stuff, but at least the nodal axis is in fixed signs, in Taurus, Scorpio. And you have 2 outer planets. I mean, you have Saturn and Uranus in fixed signs. But you have also 4 mutables. The moon and the ascendant are also mutables. So here's a person who can initiate, is not very good at actually finishing, completing stuff, but very flexible at the same time. So that you compare both people, and then you can see how they are operating. And then if you look at the elements, okay, you can see that you have 3 planets and 2 planets actually, Jupiter and Chiron, and the ascendant in fire. And you have 6 air, the sun and the moon, Mercury and Venus and Mars. So all the personal planets are actually in air signs. So this person is very cerebral, very logical. And then you have only 1.5 water. There's Neptune in Pisces, and of course the South Node in Scorpio. And for this, you have 4 planets, or 3 planets actually, and the ascendant. You only have 2 planets in Earth, which are all outer planets, Uranus and Pluto. So here's a person that is very cerebral, very logical, not very emotional, but of course the fact that the South Node is in Scorpio suggests that he knows everything about emotions. And the Earth is not very strong because there are only two outer planets in Earth. So that should be the that could be the analysis, and this is what you should compare. Actually, when you look at the elements, the most important thing is to see what the lead element is. This is sometimes not obvious because, for instance, in this case, it is because all the personal planets were in air, and there's no way this wouldn't be the main element. But sometimes it's difficult to discern. You might want to talk to the client and see whether this or that element is the one that is leading, and then compare it to the other person's leading element, and you can actually see how they are comparable, because the problem will be between earth and fire, and also water and air. Why? Because earth is very practical, fire is very illogical and creative, so they clash. But the worst is when one is very cerebral, air, and the other one is very emotional, water, because air and water are not comparable at all. Let's see what else is there on the list. Okay, the second one, the third one, sorry, is important chart points in the partner's house. Now, this is something that I teach for at least 2-3 hours in my courses, but I'm going to give you a gist of it. Take one chart and see if the most important things, ascendant, sun, moon, chart ruler, south node, Venus, whatever you consider important in that chart, the ones that I just enumerated are the most important ones according to karmic astrology. Place them in the other person's chart and see which houses get highlighted. This is very important. This is why sometimes you get a partner that initiates things in us that we don't know where it came from. I never had this with any of my partners. I often hear this sentence, and it's the reason why. And of course, the 12 houses work differently. What we really are happy about is the first house, because then you have the other partner, the other person on your life path. The 10th, because then you have it in your future. The 5th, obviously, it's your love. The 11th, it's your friend and long-term lover or long-term friendship. The 7th, your partner. These are the ones that we like. The rest are not always obvious, and I'm not going to tell you everything about this. You can use your common sense and realize stuff, but I will tell you the two worst houses. One is the 6th. If your partner's important stuff falls into your 6th house, you will invariably end up feeling him as a burden, and there's no escaping about this. And the 12th, which can mean two things: that either you don't want him as your partner, you wish him as a secret lover or someone around or beneath the table, but not out in the open, or there are things that you are unable to understand about your partner because it's hidden. It's hidden behind your back. So that's very important. And then the inter aspects, of course, what I usually suggest is print the synastry grid, take a piece of paper, and then start putting down each aspect according to its type. And you will see very clearly how many conjunctions, how many trines, how many squares, how many sextiles, whatever are there. And you will see what the ruling aspect will be. Of course, the one that has the most numbers. Now, often you will see that you have X amount of conjunctions and X amount of trines, or X amount of squares and X amount of sextiles. And then you compare it, and whatever is strongest is going to describe your relationship. Unfortunately, it is squares that can totally destroy a relationship, especially fixed squares, because those require a lot of patience and love. And now we come to the two most important questions about relationships. Before I do this, I want you to realize and understand that each person is a separate world. And the question is whether you can enter that world or not, whether you are willing to, of course. If you love the other person, you are. But you have to understand that he or she is a separate world, a separate universe. And he or she might have things that you simply don't, it's not common in you. It's not something that you never thought about. You never had the experience. So actually the reason for relationships is to understand different worlds. And when you feel love, that helps tremendously, because you want to understand, and you want to look into this other universe. But the moment you start hating the other person, or not loving, or being completely neutral, it kills it, and you are no longer interested, and you don't want to enter that world. So that's why the two most important questions are: the first one is, do you still love him or her? Because if the answer is yes, there is hope. But if the second question, do you also honor him or her? If the answer to this question is no, then you have to understand that it is not love. It is no longer love. It's something, maybe compassion, maybe something else, but no love. And usually what I notice in my clients is that you are not able to rekindle love unless you really honor the other person. If you lost honoring him, if you are no longer capable of honoring him or her, it means that you lost your trust in that person. And it's very, very difficult, almost impossible, to rekindle honor. If the answer to both questions is no, then walk away. Walk away, count your losses and walk away. If the question, of course, to both is yes, then remain there and try to resolve the problems. But if to the first question you say, no, I don't think I love him any longer. But to the second question, say, yes, I still honor him, because I usually ask them the person why, and then she or he says, because he's the father of my children, because I look up to him, because he achieves so much, blah, 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 because knowledgeable. So if you have things for which you can honor your partner, then love can be rekindled. And because honor helps you trust the other person, and trust is always the basis for relationships. So that's it for today. I hope you understood the summing up of this. As I said, there are many videos out there about certain relationships. I don't really remember whether I did it in Hungarian or in English as well. In Hungarian for sure, so if you speak Magyar, you are able to watch them. But I do hope that there are English versions as well. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.